Do-it-yourself vanilla powder method. Homemade vanilla powder is created by crushing dried vanilla beans into a pure, unadulterated form. Unlike vanilla extract, which might evaporate during baking or impart a boozy bite, powdered vanilla powder is made entirely from vanilla beans. It is stronger and more intense than vanilla extract. Waste-free and easy to manufacture. Perfect for use in coffee, custards, pastry cream, and baked goods. What makes this homemade vanilla powder so adorable? Vanilla taste only. Very simple to prepare. Utilizes the entire pod with no waste. No alcoholic flavor. Even at high heat, the taste is retained. There are no artificial or chemical additions. Homemade recipes are more affordable. Vanilla powder, what is it? Vanilla beans powder, what is it? The phrases vanilla powder and vanilla bean powder are frequently used synonymously. Two varieties of vanilla powder exist. Ground vanilla beans, commonly known as ground vanilla bean powder, are in the finest form. The whole bean is dried and powdered into a fine powder together with the pod and caviar. You won't lose taste while baking or cooking because alcohol is not utilized as a carrier. Desserts and baking both utilize it. You may also purchase vanilla sugar in another form with extra sugar. It is substituted for sugar or sprinkled on top of beverages and sweets. Synthetic vanilla is frequently used to make commercial vanilla powder. When utilizing high heat or for baked items that can't withstand additional liquid, vanilla powder for baking is a perfect substitute for vanilla extract. It won't give custards and creams a boozy bite when used in them. What taste does it have? An intensely sweet, rich vanilla flavor and scent may be found in pure vanilla powder prepared from vanilla beans. Because it is diluted with sugar, vanilla powder prepared with sugar has a sweeter, softer flavor. Vanilla extract versus vanilla powder. Cooks Illustrated put vanilla bean paste and powder to the test to see how they stacked up against vanilla extract and whole beans. The panelists agreed that vanilla powder is preferable to vanilla extract in baked items. Vanilla paste came in a very close second to whole vanilla beans in custards or pastry creams. Without adding the boozy taste that vanilla extract may, it imparts a strong vanilla flavor. For those who refrain from drinking alcohol due to allergies, religious convictions, or other factors, vanilla powder and vanilla paste are also ideal. Whole vanilla beans are a luxury in the kitchen, and extract cannot compare to the wonderful taste they impart to custards, ice creams, and baked products. However, they are quite expensive and need an additional step in a recipe. When compared to the price, the quantity of vanilla beans you can extract from a pod looks little. And if I see some of them stuck to the cutting board or my fingers after scraping them out, I feel quite irritated. The pod comes next. The pod is really flavorful. You can put it in a jar of sugar and wait for it to turn into vanilla sugar, yes. What if, though, you could utilize the entire pod without any waste and it was as simple to use as grabbing a bottle of the extract? Here's where vanilla paste and powder come in. Alcohol serves as a transporter for the scent in extracts, therefore when the alcohol evaporates during baking, the flavor is lost. Under the intense heat of the oven, vanilla powder keeps its taste and perfume. When you want a pure vanilla taste without any additional liquid or alcohol, vanilla powder is an excellent choice. Vanilla powder method. Making your own vanilla bean powder is simple and far less expensive than purchasing it already produced. The drying of the beans is the first process. There are several methods for achieving this. For many weeks, let the vanilla beans out on the counter. The vanilla beans should be baked for about 1 hour at 150 degrees Fahrenheit. For around 5 minutes, bake the vanilla beans in a 350 degrees Fahrenheit oven. The vanilla beans should be microwaved for 20 to 30 seconds. They need to swell and crisp up. Personally, I like baking the vanilla beans at 150 degrees Fahrenheit. It appears to be the quickest natural method of drying the beans because it isn't too hot that they would quickly burn. I don't advise baking them at 350 degrees since I've scorched vanilla beans when I've done so. They burn up extremely fast. On a baking sheet lined with parchment paper, bake vanilla beans for an hour to an hour and a half at 150 degrees Fahrenheit. You want them to dry out well without burning. When you remove them from the oven, they will still be malleable, but as they cool, they will become brittle. Brittle beans are required for a powder that has been finely pulverized. Cut them into smaller pieces once they have cooled, then ground them in a coffee or spice grinder. How to make sugar-based vanilla powder. Combine the ground vanilla bean powder from 2 vanilla beans with 1 cup of powdered sugar to create a vanilla powder for coffee with sugar, similar to Starbucks vanilla bean powder, that may be sprinkled on top of the coffee, lattes, or desserts. To completely blend it, whisk it together or pulse it in a food processor or grinder. Application of vanilla powder. Use in baked goods. Vanilla powder can be used in place of vanilla extract in any recipe that asks for it. Use 12 teaspoons of ground vanilla bean powder for every teaspoon of vanilla extract since it has a stronger flavor. Use in custards, puddings, ice cream, and pastry cream to create a rich, boozy-free vanilla flavor that doesn't evaporate during cooking. For coffee, tea, and lattes, add pure vanilla flavor is added with no boozy aftertaste with only a sprinkle, along with your sweetener. A nice alternative is sugar-based vanilla powder. Storage of vanilla powder. For several months, the vanilla powder may be kept in an airtight container. Remember to save it for later. Making vanilla powder. The taste of powdered vanilla powder, which is made entirely from vanilla beans, is richer and more intense than that of vanilla extract. Waste-free and easy to manufacture. Perfect for use in coffee, custards, pastry cream, and baked goods. Ingredients. Coffee beans. Instructions. On a baking sheet lined with parchment paper, bake vanilla beans for an hour to an hour and a half at 150 degrees Fahrenheit. You want them to dry out well without burning. When you remove them from the oven, they will still be malleable, but as they cool, they will become brittle. Brittle beans are required for a powder that has been finely pulverized. Cut them into smaller pieces once they have cooled, then ground them in a coffee or spice grinder. Recipes for homemade vanilla powder. After creating my own handmade vanilla sugar and extract, I still had one more project in mind for the remaining beans. Made-at-home vanilla powder gives you those lovely vanilla specks and is a terrific method to add vanilla flavor when you don't want to add a lot of extra liquid. All you need is this. Yes, you read that correctly, just some fine, previously used vanilla beans. Then, place them in a coffee grinder. I used the chopper blade on my Cuisinart compact portable blending/chopping system because I didn't have a coffee grinder, and grind them into a fine powder. Ingredients. Coffee beans. Instructions. The vanilla beans must be dried. Utilizing a coffee grinder, chop the material into chunks of 1 to 2 inches, then powder it. Vanilla powder method. This post will teach you how to make 100% vanilla pods into vanilla powder. A rich, robust homemade vanilla powder can be made with this zero-waste recipe and added to all your baked goods, drink recipes, and more. Did you know that making vanilla powder is quite easy to learn? This handmade vanilla powder is waste-free and gives food a rich, deep vanilla flavor. It is created only from 100% vanilla pods. This preserves its flavor even when baked at high temperatures in an oven and is far more strong than vanilla extract. You may use 1/2 teaspoon powder instead of 1 teaspoon extract. Did you know that since vanilla extract contains alcohol, the flavor is lost when cooking? I adore how waste-free my homemade vanilla powder is. Unlike when using vanilla beans in a recipe and discarding the pods, you'll utilize the entire pod in this manner. In this manner, you may receive a lot for your money. Never again must those pricey vanilla pods be wasted in any way. For people who cannot drink alcohol, the powder is a wonderful substitute for vanilla extract. Vanilla sugar may be made with vanilla powder as well. It may be used in recipes for custards, sauces, beverages, baked products, and almost wherever vanilla paste, beans, or extract would typically be included. You might use this vanilla powder in some of my dishes, such as this 2-layer strawberry and vanilla vegan pastry, vegan chocolate cherry black forest tart, fluffy Japanese-style pancakes, DIY vegan Magnum ice creams, and in these nutritious overnight oats that are inspired by desserts. Only to mention a few. Vanilla powder method. Making homemade vanilla powder is a really easy technique. There are only 2 steps to it. First action is to allow the vanilla pods to dry. There are a few techniques you may employ to do this. You may just put the vanilla pods out on a counter for a few weeks if you're not in a rush. Alternately, bake for 1.5 hours at 50 degrees Celsius on a lined baking sheet. Additionally, I've heard that you can microwave the beans. To be quite honest, I didn't want to try this. Instead, I wanted to dry them out gradually and naturally. The next step is to completely eliminate waste by grinding the whole, now brittle vanilla pods into fine vanilla powder. If they aren't completely dry, you'll discover that they won't mix into a fine powder. If you have a coffee or spice grinder, you may use it for this, otherwise, I just used my hand blender. The pods will still be quite malleable when initially removed from the oven if utilizing the oven technique. However, they will grow more fragile as they cool. The vanilla powder can then be kept in a cold, dark location in an airtight container, like a cupboard. Then, this will last for around a year. Note: resist the urge to chill the vanilla powder. It will be destroyed by drying out the powder and changing the internal oils. Making vanilla powder at home. This article demonstrates how to create vanilla powder using only vanilla beans. This recipe for rich, powerful homemade vanilla powder may be used in a variety of baked items, drink recipes, and other things. Ingredients: 5 pods of vanilla. Instructions. Drying the vanilla pods is the first step. To achieve this, just bake the pods for 1.5 hours at 50 degrees Celsius on a prepared baking sheet. Once the pods have cooled, just place them in a spice grinder or combine them with a hand mixer to create a fine powder. The vanilla powder can then be kept in a cold, dark location in an airtight container, like a cupboard. Then, this will last for around a year. How to split a vanilla bean and seed it. We'll walk you through the process of effortlessly splitting and removing the seeds from a fresh vanilla bean in this step-by-step tutorial. In our recipes, we typically exclusively use fresh vanilla. Compared to the dried vanilla goods you can get at the grocery store, fresh vanilla just has a better and richer flavor. This lesson will teach you how to separate the tasty vanilla seeds from the beans. The process is actually extremely simple, and it's worth the additional effort. For our vanilla ice cream and the incredibly traditional Danish rice pudding, risselemand, which is often served as a dessert at Christmas, we always utilize fresh vanilla. Make vanilla sugar, please. You may also utilize this information if you are ready to use a recipe that calls for vanilla sugar, but you are unable to get it at your neighborhood grocery shop. All of the steps listed below are easily followed. How to cut a vanilla bean in half and seed it. 5 minutes. You'll require 1 vanilla bean, knife, a cutting board. Directions. First, slice the vanilla bean lengthwise with a little knife. The second step is to split the bean in half. Place the 2 halves on a cutting board in step 3. Step 4. Scrape out the vanilla seeds with the knife's blunt backside. Place the vanilla seeds in a compact mound in Step 5. Continue to the following step if the recipe where you're using the vanilla calls for sugar, otherwise, stop here. Step 6. Place a spoonful of sugar next to the vanilla pile and use a knife to combine the two ingredients. By doing this, you stop the vanilla from DIY vanilla extract. 3 methods. Using homemade vanilla extract will elevate your dishes to new heights. Pick from bourbon, rum, and vodka. Your taste senses will surely be tempted by these 3 distinctive flavors. Why make your own vanilla extract with DIY? The following 3 arguments support manufacturing vanilla extract at home. Many of the retail vanilla extracts don't truly contain vanilla. These fake vanilla extracts are frequently prepared with synthetic vanilla, also known as vanillin, a synthetic flavor that mimics the flavor of genuine vanilla. The next time you go shopping, look at the ingredients to understand what I mean. A homemade version of vanilla extract may be more affordable than buying real vanilla beans. Making homemade vanilla extract is quite simple. Only 2 ingredients, vanilla beans and 70 proof/35% alcohol, are required. How is vanilla extract made? What kind of alcohol is used? Vodka is typically used to make vanilla extract, but the appeal of DIY is that you may experiment with various alcoholic beverages. I've created homemade vanilla extract thus far using vodka, rum, bourbon. In stores, I've never seen those variety. Did you? Whose vanilla beans are used to make vanilla extract? By utilizing several kinds of vanilla beans, you may further customize your own vanilla extract. Each type of vanilla will provide a distinctive flavor. Ugandan vanilla beans, fig, chocolate, and creamy notes. Madagascar vanilla beans, a classic, warm, and creamy flavor. Strong floral fragrance of cherry, wine, wood, and star anise in Tahitian vanilla beans. Mexican vanilla beans have a rich, creamy flavor and are fragrant. Combine several types for a really distinctive tasting experience. How should homemade vanilla extract be stored? Because its 2 components are very shelf-stable, vanilla extract has virtually endless shelf life. Having said that, you should be sure to keep your homemade vanilla extract correctly. Choose a swing-top bottle, like I did, to reduce evaporation and absorption of neighboring odors in your pantry, such as vinegars, etc. Store in an airtight container. It is not necessary to store homemade vanilla extract in the refrigerator. In fact, low temperatures and light and heat might cause the extract to become hazy. Instead, keep it in a cool, dark spot like your pantry. How long after I make my own vanilla extract can I use it? The extraction process is finished after 2 months, at which point the beans can either be removed or left in the bottle. As a guide, use your nose. Give your homemade vanilla extract another month to extract if, after 2 months, it still only smells like alcohol. Although there will always be some alcohol aroma, the flavor of the extract will develop with time. DIY vanilla extract use instructions. Depending on the extract you use, you can improve the flavor of a recipe. Rum vanilla essence is used in spicier sweets and beverages. Muffins and quick breads made with bourbon vanilla extract. Vanilla vodka extract is a versatile ingredient. Alcohol-free homemade vanilla extract method. You do have the option to create an alcohol-free Cavil extract using food-grade USP non-GMO glycerin if you need to avoid alcohol for whatever reason. Is it okay to use vegetable glycerin in food? What is it? Glycerol, also known as vegetable glycerin, is a colorless liquid derived from a variety of plant oils, including palm, soy, and coconut oil. Vegetable glycerin that is intended for use in food applications has a USP purity grade of at least 99%, a sweet taste, and may be used without risk. Vegetable glycerin is a carbohydrate, although despite being a carbohydrate, It is thought to be completely safe and has no effect on blood sugar levels. It helps keep food wet and is frequently used to sweeten low-carb food items. Please be aware that while alcohol is required for the extraction process, using glycerin in its place will result in more of a vanilla-flavored syrup than a vanilla extract. Vanilla extract cheat at home. If you want to try manufacturing your own vanilla extract at home but don't have a fully equipped bar, I'd recommend purchasing little alcohol bottles. Put a few vanilla beans right into the bottles and wait. They would also make wonderful presents if you package them in adorable miniature glass bottles. Ingredients: 8 ounces of alcohol should have 3 to 5 vanilla beans. Instructions: the vanilla bean should be cut lengthwise. Put the vanilla beans 2/2 into a spotless glass bottle. Add enough alcohol to thoroughly cover the beans. For at least 2 months, store the bottles with the lids closed in a cold, dark area. Do-it-yourself vanilla powder method. Learn how simple it is to produce your own homemade vanilla powder for all of your delectable sweet treats. I discussed reducing sugar in our diet with a Swedish relative of mine. She claimed she added the vanilla powder to her dish to make it taste sweeter. Since I had never heard of vanilla powder, I was curious what it was. She thus sent me a little jar of it. It is extremely intriguing because you only need 1/2 tsp of powder for every tsp of vanilla extract because it is pure vanilla, no alcohol, no sugar. Although you only need a tiny bit of the powder, I eventually understood that it would be gone. I thus looked online to see whether there was a method to create it at home. Fortunately, there is a very easy way to do that. You ground dried vanilla beans, pods, in your coffee grinder, spice grinder. Even some individuals have done it with a food processor. My scant study revealed many methods for drying vanilla beans. 3 weeks on your counter will allow a vanilla bean to get dry, for raw vanilla powder. Vanilla beans should be dried in the oven at 65°C, 150°F, for about an hour. Dry vanilla beans should be baked for 4 to 5 minutes at 170°C, 350°F. I believe you should microwave the dried vanilla beans for around 10 seconds. I chose the third option since I'm not very patient. I made my own vanilla sugar by grinding up some powdered sugar to clear up my coffee grinder. I recall that my mother used to use a coffee grinder to ground granulated sugar before putting it in a jar and adding a vanilla bean. She would always have vanilla sugar available if she needed it. For 3 to 6 months, store your own vanilla powder in an airtight jar, or until they lose flavor. How to make vanilla powder at home. Learn how simple it is to produce your own homemade vanilla powder for all of your delectable sweet treats. Ingredients: 4 vanilla beans whole. Instructions: set the oven to 170°C, 350°F. Place the vanilla beans on a baking sheet that has been coated with parchment paper after slicing them lengthwise. Do not scrape the seeds, you will use entire beans. 4 to 5 minutes of roasting in a fan oven. A regular oven might need a minute longer. Vanilla beans will still be a bit mushy, but will harden after chilling, cooling. Allow to totally cool. Slice up each vanilla strip into manageable pieces. To pulverize them, place them in a coffee grinder, spice grinder. The powder should be kept in a little, sealed glass container. How to use homemade vanilla powder. For every teaspoon of liquid vanilla extract or vanilla paste called for in a recipe, substitute 1/2 tsp vanilla powder. Alcohol-free vanilla extract made at home. Vanilla extract may be made at home. Vanilla beans and vodka are all you need. But did you know that you may also create vanilla extract at home without alcohol? Jaw lowers to the ground. For a variety of reasons, people choose alcohol-free vanilla extract over its alcoholic version. Regardless of your motivation, you will like this vanilla. It is simple, affordable, low in carbohydrates, gluten-free, and vegan. But don't worry, it's quite yummy. Store-bought vanilla extract is rather pricey, and nearly typically includes alcohol as well as added sugar or corn syrup. Unlike this homemade alcohol-free vanilla extract, though, when you use vanilla that contains vodka, you could occasionally taste the alcohol in the final result, especially if you make no-cook meals like ice cream, fudge, icing, dips, and puddings. Make this dish if this has ever happened to you. There are just 3 components needed to produce this homemade, alcohol-free vanilla extract. It works well in frostings, ice creams, other no-bake desserts, cakes, other baked foods, and more. Ingredients: 8 vanilla bean, 1/4 teaspoon salt, filtered water, 1 cup. Instructions: to fit within the bottle you're using, cut the vanilla beans. Just enough lengthwise slicing of the beans will allow you to drill through one side. You want to expose the tiny vanilla seeds, but keep them attached to the bean. Fill the container entirely with purified water, then add the salt and vanilla beans. Shake the bottle ferociously after covering it with the lid. Shake the bottle once daily for 4 weeks while keeping it in the refrigerator. I set a daily reminder on my calendar to help me remember. You may shake it less frequently for the following 5 weeks, like twice a week. After these 9 weeks, the vanilla will be ready to use, but the longer the better. Before using, shake. Make vanilla bean powder at home. After using your vanilla beans to manufacture a few batches of vanilla extract, don't throw them away. Vanilla bean powder may be made from the used pods. There is no waste because every portion of the bean is utilized in this delicious foodstuff. And given how much vanilla now costs, that's a pretty good thing. What is powdered vanilla bean? Simply ground vanilla beans make up vanilla bean powder. In a nutshell, vanilla powder uses both the pods and the seeds, unlike many recipes that simply call for the seeds. This enables you to extract all of the taste and aroma from your beans. This is the method to use if you want a recipe to have a strong vanilla taste. Vanilla extract is just half as strong as vanilla bean powder. And unlike extract, it doesn't bake off. To get those distinctive vanilla flecks, add them to vanilla buttercream frosting or vanilla ice cream. If you can't or don't want to ingest alcohol, vanilla bean powder is a wonderful substitute for vanilla extract. Recipe for vanilla bean powder. Fresh vanilla beans are normally used to produce vanilla bean powder, but before I ground my beans into powder, I like to prepare a few batches of vanilla extract first. It's just my attempt to increase the worth of each bean. A single bean makes around 1/2 teaspoon of powder. Once you realize that, scaling this formula to meet your needs is simple. Ingredients: coffee beans. Dehydrate the vanilla beans. Alcohol should have dried out the vanilla beans if you're using them to manufacture vanilla extract. After you remove them from the extract, simply allow them to air dry for a few days. Fresh vanilla beans should be baked for an hour at the lowest oven temperature if you're using them. Give them time to cool. Next, check to see if they feel brittle and dry. You will be able to ground your beans more finely the drier they are. Put your vanilla beans in a coffee/spice grinder and ground them up. They should be pulsed until they resemble a fine powder. Use an airtight jar to store your handmade vanilla bean powder. Use the product within 2 to 3 years for the greatest flavor. Application of vanilla bean powder. Add your vanilla bean powder to ice cream, icing, coffee, or baked goods. It just takes a sprinkle, since a little goes a long way. Instead of 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract or 1 vanilla bean, use 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla powder. Make vanilla bean powder at home. Ingredients: coffee beans. Instructions: the vanilla beans should be baked for an hour at the lowest oven temperature. After allowing to cool, check to see whether the beans are dry and brittle to the touch. Put them through a coffee/spice grinder to get a fine powder. In a container that is airtight, store. For optimal flavor, use within 2 to 3 years. Recipe for homemade vanilla salt. How to manufacture salt with vanilla flavor. This simple DIY recipe would make the ideal Christmas present. So yesterday was like a roller coaster. Several ups and downs. We had planned to watch Harry Potter, but instead saw the Transformers movie with our kid. Ultimately proved to be a good film. Was a little apprehensive since the notion of the lunar conspiracy in general struck me as weird. However, if you can suspend your disbelief and just enjoy the trip, the movie is fantastic. Just yesterday, I had to leave the house. Right now, life occupies a lot of my thoughts. We are fortunate to have wonderful friends who make sure we have a ton of gift cards for movies so we can occasionally leave the house. One of those days that I wanted to run away was yesterday. If you don't follow my other blog, I'll briefly explain why I'm feeling down if you don't, and why on earth don't you, I may add. And for someone who has recently been through the ringer and back again, believe me when I say that I don't get blue very frequently. You may or may not be aware that my husband, who worked in the car business, was laid off 3 years ago. We assumed it was just like every other time they predicted doom and gloom and Hubs would get called back. My dad worked at Ford's for 30 plus years, so I've seen a lot of ups and downs with the auto business in my life. That it would fluctuate for a time before getting back to normal. After a year, it was clear that something had changed. Hubs would return to school to finish his engineering degree, we decided. We knew it would be difficult because I don't work. 2 years pass, and he has finished school but is unable to find a job to complete the remaining 100 hours. We are broke, our money is gone, and life is becoming quite stressful. All benefits that were continued while he attended school will expire in September. So picture the pressure. Although he works a part-time job, it is not in his specialty and does not provide enough income to support him. The school has done nothing to help him since there are just no options in our area. We might need to relocate, but in the meanwhile, both kids start college in about a month. Don't even begin to ask me how we're handling it. I thus don't dwell on the bigger picture and just generally try not to be depressed about it all since I know that everything will work out in the end. I would break down if I did. But I continue to receive inquiries from folks who sincerely believe they are helping. They so pose the queries to which I have no replies. What will we do next? I have no idea, to be honest. Usually, I'm able to move on. But for some reason, it's not functioning this time. I'm in a bad mood. It always does, therefore it will pass. So, this won't be my typical jovial, hilarious post. However, I wanted to bring it up now, before I forget. I will post those later when I finish editing some more pictures of it. I only wanted to bring this up for the time being. I came upon an unusual item when reading Paula Deen's magazine. So I gave several of the products a try. I believe this is the first of 5 parts. Enjoy. Ingredients. Sea salt, 1 cup. Vanilla bean paste, 1½ teaspoons. Instructions. Mix the paste and salt in your food processor, or a blender would do. Place in a container that is airtight. A different approach is to split open a vanilla bean and place it in your salt shaker for a few days until the flavors meld. This can be used for fish or seafood, yuck, as well as for vegetables. Additionally, you may use it in baking and other sweet food. A fantastic substitute for vanilla extract is toasted vanilla powder. One of the best methods I've found to cut costs on your food budget is to have simple alternatives for kitchen essentials. I already use powdered egg replacers, homemade powdered sugar, rice milk, almond milk, coffee substitute, easiest coconut milk, and more. But I've never used plain vanilla beans as a substitute for vanilla extract because I didn't really know what I was doing. Now that you have a new kitchen alternative in the form of this vanilla extract substitute from Naomi of Almost Bananas, you also have a fantastic new homemade gift option. Many people bake a lot during the holidays. Vanilla is a common ingredient in baking. There are several homemade vanilla extract recipes available, which is fantastic. To create it, I bought a lot of vanilla beans, although I'm ashamed to mention when. Making vanilla extract has been on my to-do list for a long, but I never got around to it, and when I did, I didn't have time to let it soak for 4 weeks. In this manner, I may quickly prepare a vanilla extract alternative. Just exquisite vanilla with a fragrant scent, no fillers or weird substances. What to do with and where to keep this homemade vanilla powder. And there are actually a lot of ways you can utilize this vanilla powder. Even in recipes like pumpkin gingerbread smoothie, orange walnut cardamom balls, or ghee rooibos chai tea that don't exactly call for it. The little jar in the photo was filled to the brim with 3 beans. The container is one of those sample jam jars, but the powder may also be kept in an origami handbag. Actually, Slovakia sells all spices in what looks like envelopes. Making a little funnel to put it in clean essential oil bottles is another option. This vanilla powder is ideal for baking over the holidays. Simply replace each teaspoon of vanilla essence in a recipe with 1/4/1/2 teaspoon of vanilla powder. Of course, you can always taste your recipe to verify whether there is enough vanilla and, if necessary, add additional vanilla powder. It's also a wonderful holiday present. You may create a meaningful and unique handcrafted present by wrapping some ribbon around it. That took about 5 minutes, I might add. Nuts and honey and origami toys, 4 toys from 1 sheet of paper, are 2 more simple yet inventive Christmas gift ideas. Ingredients: whole vanilla beans, be sure they are wet and malleable. The technique of toasting will burn the beans if they are dry rather than toast them. Instructions: lengthwise vanilla bean slices. Place on a baking sheet and roast at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 4 minutes. Watch it closely. When you pull it out, it should smell pleasant. Place in a coffee or spice grinder. My high-speed blender mixed 3 beans, although I had to scrape the sides down well. Transform into a powder. Place inside the chosen container. As previously stated, substitute 14 to 12 teaspoons of vanilla powder for each teaspoon of vanilla essence. Recipe for homemade vanilla powder. There may be affiliate links in this article. I make money from qualifying purchases as an Amazon associate. Please see my disclosure page for additional details. One of the most popular flavors in the world is vanilla. Everyone, I'm sure, has a bottle or 2 of vanilla extract on their spice rack, but what happens when you only want the flavor of vanilla? If you only want the flavor and not the booze, what then? While developing my own hot cacao mix last week, I started looking into this very subject. And the solution is homemade vanilla powder. Vanilla powder may be ordered online, but I didn't have the patience to wait for the mail to deliver it. And it's incredibly costly. Although vanilla beans alone are not cheap, a little amount goes a long way. The flavor is intense and will persist over several recipes. Making it at home is quite simple as well. Making vanilla powder at home. Oven to 150 degrees before using. That is my oven's lowest setting. On a baking sheet that has been lined with parchment paper, arrange 4 entire vanilla beans. To dry the beans out, place them in the oven and bake for an hour. Wow, my kitchen smelled fantastic. Remove them from the oven, then let them cool. Put the beans in a coffee/spice grinder after breaking them up into small bits. Use the best espresso setting to create delectable homemade vanilla powder. I believe I used 1 teaspoon and 1 tablespoon to make around 3/4 of an ounce of vanilla powder. To produce a batch of double chocolate hot cacao mix, I only used half a teaspoon. Yes, you read it correctly. I went through the entire procedure to make a better, dairy-free chocolate mix for my mocha, haha. I'm eager to try out more recipes now that I've made this lovely vanilla powder, though. I used 2 jars of whole vanilla beans from the grocery store. You might be able to get decent bargains on them if you shop around. I crushed up some dry rice and used a moist cloth to clean out my coffee grinder and get rid of the coffee scent. Until you're ready to use it, keep your homemade vanilla powder in an airtight glass jar. Make your own vanilla powder. Every spice cupboard needs some homemade vanilla powder to enhance the flavor of your culinary creations, and it is simple to produce. Ingredients: 4 vanilla beans whole. Instructions: oven to 150 degrees before using. Use parchment paper to cover a baking sheet. The vanilla beans should be dried after baking for an hour on the baking sheet. Ensure that the vanilla beans cool. To pulverize them, chop them into little pieces and put them in a coffee or spice grinder. Keep in a glass jar that is sealed. Instructions for rehydrating dried vanilla beans. I believe I told my spouse a number of years ago that I wanted vanilla beans for a forthcoming holiday. I gave him a hint by leaving the computer screen on, displaying the website where I wanted my beans to be bought, with them already in the cart, and a letter instructing him to make the purchase on my behalf. It wasn't exactly a clue, I guess. It had a neon symbol and was a fully developed flag. However, that is irrelevant. His purchase of my vanilla beans. I believe I purchased 100 beans. I was sure that I'd use them up rather soon because I had so many ideas for how I wanted to use them. I also assumed that since I had purchased so many, we would also present them as gifts at Christmas. We also did. We distributed a lot of them. We thought it was a creative and enjoyable present because each family and friend received a tiny bundle of beans along with numerous dishes they could use them with. If you've ever purchased vanilla beans from a shop, you are aware of their high cost. But if you buy them in quantity, the price becomes relatively affordable, making the investment worthwhile if you plan to utilize them. But as time passed, I didn't utilize them as frequently as I had anticipated, and a lot of the beans dried up. I was inconsolable. Since I lacked a vacuum sealer, my beans turned hard and brittle, making them trash-worthy. There was no longer any way to scoop out the seeds since the insides were dried off. I do, however, like to keep things. And for the past 2 years, I have promised myself that I will find a purpose for those beans. And to be really honest, I've experimented with a few various ways to rehydrate beans over the years. They all yielded mediocre outcomes up until this point. Do not throw away any Viva beans, including dried out, broken, or beans you would consider garbage. Rehydrate them using this foolproof technique, then use them. There is currently just one recipe on the website that calls for actual vanilla beans, but there will be more. Make our banana cupcakes with vanilla bean frosting after rehydrating those vanilla beans. Ingredients: stale vanilla beans. Hot but not boiling water. Instructions: put any type of dry beans on a shallow plate, whether they are broken or whole. It works nicely in a pie plate or casserole dish. Over the beans, cover them with 1.5 to 2 inches of heated water. Saran covers the dish and lets it sit for 10 minutes. Beans should be pliable since they will swell up and rehydrate. If they are not as plump as you desire, discard the water and begin again. I left my beans out for as long as overnight, and the next day they were just beautiful and plump. However, the 10-minute approach is excellent if you want them immediately. Scoop out the seeds after opening the beans. Give your sugar canister a brisk shake after adding the used pods. Leave the pods in the sugar and let them flavor it. Yum! Vanilla extract made at home with your Instant Pot. Ever pondered using your Instant Pot to manufacture homemade vanilla extract? I'm here to walk you through every little aspect. Making it from scratch is much more cost-effective than purchasing it, thus using this recipe will save you time and money. And the lengthy extraction period is eliminated when cooking it in the Instant Pot. Ingredients required to manufacture homemade vanilla extract in a pressure cooker using the Instant Pot. Coffee beans. Alcohol, vodka, rum, brandy, or bourbon. Water. Lidded mason jars. Pressure cooker with an Instant Pot. Type of vanilla bean that is best for extract. There are 6 main kinds that are frequently used to make homemade vanilla extract. Depending on how you want your extract to taste, each of them offers a distinct flavor. In my experience, Madagascar beans are the most popular bean, and because of their delectable flavor, that's what I normally choose. However, these are some excellent alternatives. Madagascar vanilla is a rich, creamy flavor. Mexican vanilla is a strong, smoky flavor. Indian vanilla with chocolate flavor. Vanilla from Indonesia is moderate and well-balanced. Cherry chocolate, flowery Tahitian vanilla. Tonga vanilla, fig, raisin, and earthy. What distinguishes Grade A from Grade B vanilla beans? Due to their moisture content, length, and condition, Grade A vanilla beans are regarded as gourmet quality. Your vanilla beans should have an oily outer shell, be pliable and plump to the touch. The vanilla extract made from them has the greatest flavor. However, they are more expensive. 10 vanilla beans cost $36 and yield 16 ounces. Grade B vanilla beans are less expensive because they are stiffer and more brittle. Still, if you're searching for a less expensive option, you may use them to produce a respectable DIY vanilla extract in your Instant Pot. The cost of 10 Grade B vanilla beans is about $27. I advise purchasing them right here. Alcohol that works best for preparing a homemade vanilla extract. This component is also very crucial. The quality of your vanilla extract or other tinctures and extracts you manufacture depends on the type of alcohol you use. Some claim that it doesn't matter how cheap the booze is, so purchase it. I am opposed. In recipes, vanilla extract is used to provide flavor. Why then would you not desire the richest, smoothest flavor profile? It's crucial to get the right kind and grade of alcohol for your extract. One typical alternative is vodka. If you decide to do this, use an 80 proof/40% alcohol quality vodka. Vodka is manufactured from grains, though, so some persons with celiac disease and gluten intolerance may react to it. This brings us to the type of alcohol I now use in my extracts: rum. Jack Sparrow playing. Your handmade vanilla extract gains a deep, rich taste with the addition of rum. Purchase an 80 proof/40% alcohol mid to premium rum, bourbon, and brandy. Once more, this gives vanilla extract a richer taste, and you may utilize them according to the level of depth and flavor profile you choose. If you choose a more reasonable approach, you may use less expensive alcohol to still produce the good homemade vanilla extract. Using various alcohols will also result in initially greater alcohol odors, especially if you're preparing it in the Instant Pot. Give it another 2 to 3 days to rest. This will make troubleshooting much simpler. Add another pod and give it another week of rest if it's still strong. Your extract may first smell like alcohol, but that scent will eventually go away. Additionally, the flavor and smell of the alcohol will bake off, so it is safe to use. Any way you look at it, manufacturing your own homemade vanilla extract is less expensive. Additionally, creating your own goods may be rewarding. The top justification for producing vanilla extract at home: taste and purity. There are numerous businesses that sell pure vanilla extract, but you should read the fine print. They frequently contain dangerous chemicals and artificial tastes, which you may find in imitation and clear vanilla. The color of the vanilla bean should be reflected in pure vanilla extract, which should be a stunning and rich dark brown. Your recipe's quality will improve, as seen by the rich flavor of handmade chocolate sauce or your preferred low-fat chocolate chip cookies. Tips for making homemade vanilla extract in your Instant Pot pressure cooker. The only reason to manufacture vanilla extract in a pressure cooker is to save time. I have a ton of recipes for the Instant Pot that have saved me time. Instead of the usual 6 weeks or more of extraction time, you may have a lovely jar of extract in only a few days. I like having them on hand for food storage and giving them as homemade presents to friends. Here are my top suggestions to help you get everything ready safely and effectively. The jars must be fingertip tight. This canning expression refers to barely tightening the lid screw. As a result, despite the heat and pressure, air bubbles can still escape. Just so you know, this only applies to creating vanilla extract and not other canning procedures. Make use of the steamer rack to support your mason jars. When the jars are finished cooking, make sure you can remove them with appropriate heat-proof hands or cooking mittens. For flavors to fully emerge, give the vanilla extract another 24 to 48 hours to settle. To allow the flavors to meld even more completely, leave the beans in. Give it some time to steep and extract. If there is still a noticeable alcohol flavor, rum, bourbon, and brandy will be harsher than clear liquors. Over time, it will become less noticeable and the vanilla tones will emerge. Keeping vanilla extract fresh. Your pantry or cabinet are good places to store your own vanilla extract in a sealed container. Like wine, vanilla extract keeps forever and only grows richer with age. That was a lot of information to process, phew. However, it's crucial to make sure you have everything you want to generate excellent and speedy homemade vanilla extract. The recipe is provided below. Please rate it and comment on your experience if you create it and like it. Learn how to manufacture homemade vanilla extract in an Instant Pot pressure cooker that is of the highest caliber. It is most efficient financially and considerably cuts down on time. Ingredients: 2 rum cups, 10 vanilla beans of grade A or B, 1 water cup. Instructions: prepare 2 empty, 8-ounce mason jars. Each jar should contain 1 cup of alcohol. Vanilla beans should be split along the center to release the tastes and oils. Each jar should contain 5 vanilla beans. Set aside after securing lids fingertip tight. Add water to the Instant Pot and then place the steamer basket inside. In the center of the rack, place the jars. Cook for 45 minutes at manual high pressure after sealing the valve and securing the lid. Allow it to discharge naturally for around 30 minutes. Wearing heat-resistant gloves, carefully remove the jars. Give the homemade vanilla extract 24 to 48 hours to rest so it may develop more thoroughly. The flavor will grow more deep and more powerful the longer the vanilla beans are left in. I advise keeping them in. After a short period of repose, this extract is prepared for usage. Store in a glass jar in a cool, dark location. Continues forever. Making vanilla sugar. My current passion is vanilla sugar. I use it whenever I need to utilize sugar because it gives the food such a lovely depth. I use it for my morning cereals and oats as well as for milkshakes, desserts, and, of course, coffee. Here is a recipe for it. Although expensive and difficult to get locally, vanilla sugar is, fortunately, one of the simplest things that you can produce yourself. One of the most delicious items you can keep in your kitchen is this. It is a flexible addition to food and tea due to the sweetness of the sugar and the flavor of the vanilla. Even baked dishes like French madeleines and gingerbread granola can use in place of simple sugar. Additionally, it is the ideal present. Simply prepare a large quantity, then put it into little, adorable bottles when finished. You can quickly and easily create something incredibly adorable and affordable by tying them up with some ribbons or threads. The nicest thing about vanilla sugar is how simple it is to create. A few vanilla beans and normal granulated sugar are all that is required. This is an excellent method to use leftover vanilla beans as well as new ones. A video on how to produce vanilla sugar is also available here. Ingredients: 5 vanilla bean. Sugar, 1 kilogram. Instructions: put the sugar in a container. Use a sharp knife to slit the vanilla beans. Place them into the jar, then firmly screw on the top. The jar can be kept for up to 3 weeks in a cool, dry area. Each week, Keep shaking the container. The vanilla sugar is prepared for usage. You may store the jar for a longer period of time before using the sugar to produce more potent flavors. If you want to make more, you may add additional sugar and beans. Recipe for homemade vanilla extract. You can create vanilla extract at home, did you know that? Yes. Did you realize that it just needs two basic ingredients, vodka and vanilla beans? This homemade vanilla extract will be ready to give away for the holidays if you get started on a batch soon. Sincerely, this is the perfect present for the baker or dessert enthusiast in your life. Vanilla essence is used in almost all dessert and baked product recipes. I am positive that if I received a bottle of homemade vanilla extract for Christmas, I would be ecstatic and would likely want to kiss you 8,000 times. That is what thoughtful presents do for you. You'll get hugs, thanks, dancing, and applause for this wonderful present. It also smells wonderful. While children might enjoy their scented pens, adults can spend their days inhaling vanilla extract. Ingredients: 8 vanilla bean, 1 glass vodka. Instructions: just enough lengthwise slicing to puncture through one side of the vanilla bean. Put the vanilla beans in a bottle and add enough vodka to thoroughly submerge them. Put a cover on top. Shake the bottle well, then keep it somewhere cool and dark, like a cupboard or your pantry. For 4 weeks, shake the bottle every day. I set a note on my calendar every day so I wouldn't forget. You may only shake it around 3 times each week for the following 4 weeks. In 8 weeks, vanilla will be ready for use. Before using, shake. Make your own vanilla coffee syrup at home. Your favorite coffee beverages may be sweetened at home in a pleasant way with homemade vanilla coffee syrup. It simply has only 3 basic ingredients and takes 15 minutes to prepare. I enjoy drinking iced coffee and do so more frequently than I do hot coffee. I prefer to create homemade vanilla syrup to sweeten my iced coffee when I have a need for a bit sweeter coffee flavor. It is quite simple to create and only requires a few minutes. Making fast homemade coffee syrups that are identical to Starbucks is relatively easy if you enjoy brewing coffee-style beverages at home. Condensed coffee. At home, I also make my own cold-brewed iced coffee. Doing it is pretty simple. Read the instructions on how to make cold-brewed coffee if you'd want to learn how to make it yourself. In the fall, I enjoy using my homemade pumpkin spice coffee creamer to produce my preferred cold-brewed iced coffee concentrate with pumpkin spice. If you create a batch of this homemade vanilla coffee syrup, you can simply make your own vanilla-flavored coffee beverages at home for those of you who love Starbucks. As a result, you won't need to go to Starbucks to get your fix because you already have all the components for an iced coffee drink in your refrigerator. Ingredients in vanilla syrup. A vanilla simple syrup just requires 3 ingredients to be made: refined sugar, water, ripe vanilla beans that have been split and scraped. How to make vanilla syrup directions. To create this simple homemade coffee syrup, simply follow these simple step-by-step instructions. Prepare by splitting and removing the vanilla seeds from the pods. Step 1. In a small saucepan, combine the water, sugar, and vanilla beans. Step 2. Heat it gradually and bring it to a boil. When sugar melts, stir periodically. Boil for 2 minutes in Step 3. For 15 minutes, simmer on lower heat. Step 4. Turn off the heat and let the pan cool completely. 5th step. Take the vanilla bean pods out of the pan. Put the syrup in a bottle or other container with a lid. Step 6. Place the homemade syrup in the refrigerator in a glass bottle or other container until required. Expert recipe tips. The greatest vanilla flavor will come from fresh, ripe beans. You may use turbaned sugar or white granulated sugar. As long as the substitute amounts are the same, you may use stevia or another sugar-free sweetener to produce vanilla syrup. If the ratio of sweetener to sugar is 1:1, Refrigerate vanilla syrup produced using vanilla beans. Coffee drinks, including iced coffee, hot coffee, lattes, sodas, and cocktails, may all be flavored with homemade vanilla syrup. Making homemade vanilla coffee syrup at home is simple. With the help of this simple vanilla syrup, which is created by simmering vanilla beans in simple syrup, you may replicate Starbucks coffeehouse beverages at home. Ingredients: 1 sugar cup, 1 water cup. Split and scraped vanilla beans, 2 big. Instructions: split and remove the vanilla seeds from the pods. Put the vanilla beans, sugar, and water in a small saucepan. Bring to a boil gradually. When sugar melts, stir periodically. 2 minutes of boiling. Reduce heat, then simmer for 15 minutes. After cooling to room temperature, remove the pan from the heat. Vanilla bean pods should be taken out of the pan. Put the syrup in a bottle or other container with a lid. In a glass bottle or other refrigerator-safe container, keep the homemade syrup until you need it. Keep chilled for 2 to 3 weeks. Recipe for vanilla bean syrup. Making vanilla bean lattes is a breeze using vanilla bean syrup. There are just 3 ingredients in this simple homemade recipe for vanilla bean syrup, and most grocery shops carry vanilla beans. One of my friends has a small obsession with vanilla bean lattes, which is wonderful to be in love with, except that not many coffee shops, particularly the ubiquitous chain coffee shops, serve them. In actuality, the nearest coffee shop that serves vanilla bean lattes to her home is 35 miles away. I thus made the decision to give a method for creating vanilla bean syrup for all of your favorite coffee beverages. What makes a vanilla bean latte unique? It's the vanilla bean syrup, and the lovely small black vanilla bean seeds are the main ingredient. Vanilla extract can be used to produce vanilla syrup for coffee, but it just isn't the same without vanilla bean seeds. Making vanilla bean syrup, a how-to. First step. In a saucepan, combine 1 cup of water and 1 cup of granulated sugar. Stage 2. Open the vanilla bean and cut it in half lengthwise. Use your knife to scrape the vanilla bean seeds out of the vanilla bean pod after spreading it open. Stir in the seeds and vanilla bean pod after adding them to the pot. Third step. Bring to a boil and whisk for a couple of minutes to dissolve the sugar. Fourth step. Remove the syrup from the heat and let it cool. Fill a bottle or jar made of glass, plastic, or both. If desired, include the vanilla bean pod. The vanilla bean syrup should be allowed to completely cool before being covered and kept in the refrigerator for up to 2 weeks. How to prepare a homemade vanilla bean latte. I want to start by telling you about my absolute favorite kitchen appliance. The espresso maker I use is a DeLonghi Magnifica Super Automatic. My beautiful husband gave it to me as a Christmas present, and it brings me joy every day. It grinds the beans with the simple click of a button, and I receive the most wonderful coffee with a lovely crema on top. Even if I have regular espresso beans in the machine, I can still brew decaf coffee. Additionally, it features a milk frother, which I use to froth milk and steam it in order to prepare my preferred chai tea. Start by preparing a cup of freshly brewed, strong coffee for the vanilla bean latte. I made espresso using my espresso maker and these wonderful coffee beans. Try using these espresso K-cups with your Keurig. Try this ground espresso for a drip coffee maker. Alternatively, if you lack a coffee maker, try this instant espresso. The amount of vanilla bean syrup is up to you. A coffee shop's 1 pump of vanilla bean syrup equates to around half a tablespoon. Steamed milk is then added. Once more, I made the steamed milk/frothed milk in my espresso maker. Making vanilla bean lattes is a breeze using vanilla bean syrup. There are just 3 ingredients in this simple homemade recipe for vanilla bean syrup, and most grocery shops carry vanilla beans. Ingredients: 1 cup sugar, granulated. 1 water cup. 1 vanilla bean. Instructions: Water and granulated sugar should be combined in a saucepan. Open the vanilla bean and cut it in half lengthwise. Use your knife to scrape the vanilla bean seeds out of the vanilla bean pod after spreading it open. Stir in the seeds and vanilla bean pod after adding them to the pot. Bring to a boil and whisk for a couple of minutes to dissolve the sugar. Remove the syrup from the heat and let it cool. Add liquid to a container. The vanilla bean syrup should be allowed to completely cool before being covered and kept in the refrigerator for up to 2 weeks. Recipe for homemade vanilla coffee syrup. I believe it's safe to say that my love for coffee is very intense. I begin the day by filling my 28-ounce cup to the brim. Everyone in the house is aware that the optimum time to speak with me is after I have had at least half of that mug of coffee. Because I like my morning coffee so much, one of the things I look into when I am planning a vacation is how close the nearest coffee shop is to where I would be staying. Yes, it must be a nice, strong cup with a strong, flavorful aroma. Coffee is essential to my existence. You can only imagine how disappointed I was when I began looking up the components of the stuff I put into my coffee. Yes, there are a lot of words that I cannot pronounce. It can't be good, that. Additionally, I believe such chemicals are contributing to my uneasy feeling. There was only one way to find out for sure, but I wasn't going to give up my coffee to do it. So I made the decision to adjust what I was putting in my cup and conduct a small experiment. This homemade vanilla coffee syrup was where I started. It includes just what I like, as well as a small amount of half and half. Yum! I'll wait around a month and see how I feel. Check to see if my skin, weight, or level of energy changes. I will update you. I'm simply savoring the flavor of this in my cup in the meanwhile. You probably will, too. Ingredients: 3/4 cups of water. Granulated sugar, 3/4 cup. 3 tablespoons vanilla extract. Instructions: put sugar and water in a small pot. Stirring regularly, and bring to a boil over medium heat. Remove from heat after all the sugar has dissolved. Add the vanilla and mix. Place in a sterile bottle. Keep chilled for up to 2 weeks. Recipe for vanilla bean paste. Making vanilla bean paste yourself eliminates the need to purchase it. The ideal ingredient to add to the cupboard is homemade vanilla bean paste. I created this since I've never tasted vanilla bean paste and I couldn't bring myself to rationalize purchasing a jar. I would thus weep and refuse to create a recipe anytime I saw vanilla bean paste on it. I believed there was a club for vanilla bean recipes, but I wasn't admitted. Despite the fact that I should have been preparing these recipes, I wasn't. My illogical mind overlooked the fact that purchasing a jar of the ingredient is the easiest way to get started with these dishes. Every time I find a recipe for something that might be made at home more quickly than at the store, I get really thrilled. You can only imagine how happy I was to discover this vanilla bean paste recipe. Considering that I have every component in my home. The entire trifecta. There isn't a recipe out there that is simpler to prepare than this one. All you need is maple syrup, vanilla essence, and vanilla beans, or agave nectar. There you go. There will definitely be more dishes utilizing this paste in the future. Possibly, but most likely, in the shape of cookies. Making vanilla bean paste yourself eliminates the need to purchase it. The ideal ingredient to add to the cupboard is homemade vanilla bean paste. Ingredients: 6 vanilla bean total. Pure vanilla extract, 4 teaspoons. 50 milliliters of maple syrup, or agave nectar. Instructions: in a food processor, combine all the ingredients and process until thoroughly combined. Pour the vanilla mixture into a dish that has been placed over a fine mesh sieve. Get as much liquid out of the vanilla bean pulp by pressing it. Put the vanilla bean paste in a container that can be closed. Recipe for homemade cashew butter with vanilla beans. how to create vanilla bean-infused homemade cashew butter. This recipe may be used in a plethora of dishes, including smoothies, desserts, snacks, toast, cookies, and more. Well, wow. I'm in paradise. In fact, I had dreams about this. For my taste buds, it's like drinking liquid gold. What am I referring to? Obviously, this is handmade cashew butter with vanilla bean. It's delicious, creamy, and has a hint of sweetness without any added sugar. It goes great on just about anything. You're missing out if you haven't jumped on the cashew butter bandwagon yet. Very much. Despite the fact that I am a peanut butter lover at heart, I find myself saying, "Damn, this is so amazing," whenever I try cashew butter. It is, too. To be completely honest, it tastes to me like icing. Additionally, making it is quite easy. There are only 2 ingredients, 1 machine, and 15 minutes. And here's the best part, you'll even make some savings in the process. Making cashew butter at home. Homemade nut butter is quite simple to make. If you're just getting started with nut butter, we have a whole tutorial that will walk you through the process. The best nuts and seeds to use, how to make it at home, and answers to all the frequently asked questions are covered in this comprehensive guide to homemade nut butter. But let's get started because you're reading a blog post about how to create homemade cashew butter. Toasting your cashews is the first stage in the process of preparing cashew butter. Instead of buying roasted nuts, I prefer to purchase raw cashews and toast them for the following reasons. A. I am in charge of adding oil. B. The nuts combine more rapidly if they are slightly warmed. Then, just place them in your food processor and pulse until your cashew butter is whipped and smooth. Although we're giving this one a little kick by adding some vanilla bean, you may easily omit it if you like to keep things simple. Is peanut butter or cashew butter healthier? So, which is better for you, peanut butter or cashew butter? You have to be careful what you look at, in all honesty. Peanut butter is superior in terms of protein. However, other factors are quite equal. The two are roughly equal in terms of fat, carbohydrates, potassium, etc. Cashew butter only truly has an advantage in certain minerals. But the interchangeability of nut butter is what I adore about them. I never have the same item every day, so I always have at least 3 or 4 different sorts in the rotation. By changing things up, I keep my body on its toes and prevent my taste receptors from getting stale. What can be applied cashew butter? You might wonder what you can use cashew butter on, as it is a little less common. My response? Practically anything. Since cashew butter has such a mild flavor, it goes well with just about any other flavor. I spread it over dried figs, stuff dates with it, stuff toast with it, and even use it in my baking. The following recipes call for cashew butter. Cashew butter bars without flour. Quinoa cashew cookies. Raspberry thumbprint cookies without gluten, my fave. Raspberry quinoa no-bake cookies. Cashew butter has a caramel flavor to me. Therefore, it's fantastic with everything sweet. And I'm interested to know how you plan to serve this handmade cashew butter. Comment below and let us know. It's incredibly simple to make homemade cashew butter. This one has a wonderful vanilla flavor that will complement your favorite sweet dishes. Ingredients: 3 cups uncooked cashews. 1 vanilla bean. Instructions: on a baking sheet, spread out the cashews. The cashews should be toasted for 3 to 5 minutes, or until golden brown. In a food processor, add the cashews and pulse on high until they are creamy and smooth. This may require your food processor for anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes. Smooth the vanilla bean and then cut it in half lengthwise. Remove the seeds with a scraper, then put them in the food processor. Process once more until combined. Put your homemade cashew butter in a jar that is tightly closed. For 2 to 3 weeks, keep in a cool, dry area. Recipe for homemade vanilla syrup for soft drinks. I found this recipe when searching the internet for instructions on how to turn regular Coca-Cola into vanilla Coke. Although I haven't tested it yet, it seems like it would be quite simple to create and would work rather nicely. Just an estimate of servings will be provided. Ingredients: a quarter teaspoon of vanilla extract, more or less to taste. 1/2 cup of white corn syrup. Directions: combine ingredients, then put them in a jar with a secure lid. Before each usage, shake. Add to the flavor of your preferred soft drink. Recipe for vanilla bean sugar cubes. Ingredients: 4 beans of Madagascar vanilla. White sugar, 3 cups. Pure Madagascar vanilla essence, 1/4 cup. Directions: set the oven to 275 degrees Fahrenheit. The 4 vanilla beans should be split into 1/2 inch pieces and ground in a coffee grinder to a coarse powder. Mix the sugar, vanilla bean powder, and extract in a large basin until well blended. When the extract is completely incorporated, the mixture will look a bit like dough. The sugar mixture should be poured into an 8 by 8 inch pan and uniformly spread out to a thickness of 1/2 inch. Next, run a knife down the length and breadth of the pan every 1/2 inch to score off cubes that are 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch in size. For 1.5 hours, bake. After cooling, remove the pan from the oven. To get the sugar off the pan when it has cooled, carefully turn it over onto a large cookie sheet. After letting the food cool completely, gently cut it into cubes along the scored lines. Pour the cubes carefully into a large saucepan that is covered and shake it to round the edges of the cubes. Verify again if required. If there are any sugar granules that can be saved for granulated vanilla bean sugar, sift them out of the cubes in the saucepan using a strainer or sifter with a few tiny holes. Soak in vanilla milk recipe. In the 3rd week of February, I baked the renowned Momofuku birthday cake and a scrumptious chocolate espresso cake for my birthday. Do you know about the Momofuku milk bar and its delicious cakes? Actually, I hadn't until I came across their birthday cake on Pinterest. I really had to make it for my birthday since it looked so lovely and enjoyable. It not only turned up nicely, pictures will be shared in about a week, but I also learned some helpful advice. Like this: soak in vanilla milk. Of course, I was already accustomed to utilizing ingestible syrups to flavor and moisten cake layers. I often utilize them, and I'm always happy with the outcomes. Syrups, however, have the drawback of being extremely sweet due to a large amount of sugar used in their production. Actually, it's 1 part water to 1 part sugar. Furthermore, you don't always need that much sweetness. Sometimes all the cake needs is a little moisture and perhaps a dash of flavor. Another dish that makes me wonder, why didn't I think of that, is this one. Just vanilla and milk make it so easy. Stir everything together, sprinkle it over a layer of cake, top it with icing, and presto! A moist, tasty cake. The recipe in this post isn't exactly a recipe, I think, so no. More of a casual mix and match approach. To prepare this, I use whole milk, but you may use whichever milk you choose, though buttermilk would be a bit weird, perhaps. I don't see why you couldn't use rice milk, coconut milk, almond milk, or something similar. The vanilla, too? That's something more I discovered from the Momofuku birthday cake recipe, I suppose. Their cake apparently has the vanilla flavor of a boxed cake mix, because it contains clear vanilla extract, the false vanilla extract that all the excellent food bloggers advise you about. It is actually referred to as the birthday cake secret ingredient by Christina Tosi, who created the Momofuku birthday cake recipe. In other words, imitation vanilla extract has become trendy once more. Use genuine products or counterfeit ones, it makes no difference. Well, flavor-wise it still counts, but no longer is it being judged by culinary snobs. I, on the other hand, put real vanilla extract in the milk soak for the pastel rainbow meringue heart cake and phony stuff in the milk soak for the birthday cake. The 2 cakes were both wonderful. Another point, you may always sweeten the milk if you feel that, sure, your cake could use a bit of extra sweetness. Simply heat it in a pot until it's barely warm, then add vanilla and sugar to taste. Stir until the sugar has completely dissolved. The vanilla milk soap just requires 2 ingredients, making it very simple to customize this recipe to match the flavor of your cake or your own preferences. Ingredients: 120 g, about half a cup of your preferred milk. 1 teaspoon of your preferred vanilla extract. Instructions: mix the milk and vanilla in a glass. Before icing, drizzle or brush the cake layers. Notes: Asterisk, you may add some sugar to the milk to make it sweeter if you'd like. While swirling to ensure that the sugar has dissolved, warm the milk and add sugar to taste. Cream of vanilla recipe. One of my basic joys in life is vanilla sugar. This vanilla sugar, which only requires 2 ingredients to make, is a mainstay in my cupboard. In certain cases, while making scones, muffins, cakes, or other pastries, I like to use it in place of ordinary sugar. Recently, I combined vanilla sugar and simple syrup to make ice-cold margaritas. Actually, you may use vanilla sugar for white sugar in the majority of recipes. Whatever you are creating will get a little vanilla taste from the substitute. However, I have to admit that the scent of this vanilla sugar is my favorite feature. I find myself lifting the cover once or twice a week to breathe in the wonderful, heavy aroma. So straightforward but lovely. For the recipe as well as a list of some of my favorite straightforward pleasures, keep reading. This dish is a fantastic way to use up scraps of vanilla beans or pods that have already been used. After the cream has done steeping, I like to extract the vanilla bean from it while making vanilla ice cream. I use the dried bean to make this vanilla sugar after patting it dry. Ingredients: 1 vanilla bean. White sugar, 2 cups. Instructions: cut each vanilla bean piece in half lengthwise after cutting it in half widthwise. Vanilla beans from vanilla pods should be scraped into a big airtight container with sugar. Add the pods, then shake to blend after tightening the cover. Recipe for cashew nut milk. Vegans and those who avoid dairy will find this homemade cashew milk recipe to be quite simple. The easiest plant-based milk to create just requires 4 ingredients. You'll be glad to hear that I have another ingredient to add to the batch if you enjoy homemade nut milk. There is a limited variety of nut/seed milk listed in my recipe index. Given how frequently coconut milk appears in my dishes, you folks surely already knew that coconut milk is my current favorite. Since I grew up drinking this specific nut milk, I must admit that I have a tiny bias towards it. You simply couldn't avoid it if you grew up in a Caribbean family, whether you liked it or not. It's just unheard of to add almond milk to, say, rice and peas, also known as peas and rice by Bajans. I somehow don't believe it would be complimented, so I'd pass on that one. We do prefer to use a lot of coconut milk in island meals. People are now making more conscious decisions about their diets, or they have chosen to take an active role in what they eat. Well, anyone who wants to create meals from scratch can use my website as a resource. Even while I don't profess to be a doctorate-holding nutritional expert, I can definitely share some of the lessons I've learned over the years and the techniques I use on a daily basis. I genuinely want people to love cooking, understand why having a healthy connection with food is vital, and get a deeper understanding of what they are consuming. In my opinion, nut milk is the greatest product available. To be honest, I'm astonished by the diversity of nut milk you can produce at home. I've yet to test a few, but besides coconut milk, almond and homemade cashew milk are my favorites. They have a thick, creamy texture, which is one of the reasons they are my favorite nut milk. Since giving up dairy, I haven't looked back. I alternate between different nut milk depending on my mood and what I'm cooking. Once you get into it, the process is actually pretty enjoyable. The change to a dairy-free diet. Going dairy-free could be worthwhile to try if you have the unfortunate circumstance of being lactose intolerant, unable to digest the sugars in dairy, or suffering from irritable bowel syndrome in addition to those terrible side effects. Eliminating dairy has also been reported to assist people with the autoimmune disease manage or possibly get rid of their condition. Humans frequently ingest cow's milk, which contains hormones that can irritate certain people's immune systems and lead to inflammation. Infant milk allergies are a common worry for parents, and clinicians frequently advise mothers to breastfeed or avoid dairy products to reduce the likelihood that the milk protein may be transferred from mom to baby. I strongly advise trying nut milk if any of the aforementioned conditions apply to you. If you're not used to it, start out gently by introducing some freshly prepared nut milk rather than quitting altogether. Although you can purchase cashew milk at the grocery store, making your own is much cooler and healthier. I can assure you that it is neither overly difficult nor overly simple. All you need is a powerful blender, such as Vitamix or Blendtec, some raw cashews, filtered water, if feasible, and a cheesecloth or strainer to get rid of any grit. Why you should make this nut milk? Free of soy, vegan-friendly, and lactose. Cholesterol and saturated fats absent, no bad fats, only good HDL fats. 50% of the recommended daily amount of vitamin E is found in 1 cup of unsweetened cashew milk. Nourishes the skin and offers sun protection. Calcium rich with vitamins D, E, and A. Includes 15 milligrams of good fats. The actions. The cashews should be soaked for 3 hours or overnight in tepid water, not filtered water. Rinse the cashews many times in the water that has been drained from them. To the blender, add the cashews, filtered water, optional vanilla extra, and pink salt. For 1 to 2 minutes, pulse the contents at high speed. By the end of that time, all of the nuts should have completely broken down, depending on how powerful the blender is. Run the liquid through a sieve or cheesecloth to confirm that the nuts have completely dissolved. Place in a mason jar and keep chilled. How long is homemade cashew milk good for? Once prepared, it's recommended to refrigerate and keep in a sealed container. The maximum duration should be 3 to 5 days. Tips and notes. Keep the nut milk in the refrigerator at all times for optimal effects. Simply shake the milk before using it if you detect any separation because there is no emulsifier in it. Use a strainer with a finer mesh if you're using one. The cashews will break down much more smoothly if you soak them before producing milk, so make sure to do this. Make sure the cashews are not salted, roasted ones without salt can be used. Any cashew pulp that is left over can be used to make a spread or added to a smoothie. Recipe for cashew nut milk. Vegans and those who avoid dairy will find this homemade cashew milk recipe to be quite simple. The easiest plant-based milk to create just requires 4 ingredients. Ingredients. Cashew nuts in a cup, 236 milliliters. 4 cups of purified water, 945 milliliters. 1 teaspoon, 4g, optional vanilla extract. 1/8 teaspoon of pink Himalayan salt, 0.75 g. Cashew nuts should be soaked in warm water. Instructions. The cashews should be soaked for 3 hours or overnight in tepid water, not filtered water. Rinse the cashews many times in the water that has been drained from them. To the blender, add the cashews, filtered water, optional vanilla extra, and pink salt. For 1 to 2 minutes, pulse the contents at high speed. By the end of that time, all of the nuts should have completely broken down, depending on how powerful the blender is. Run the liquid through a sieve or cheesecloth to confirm that the nuts have completely dissolved. Place in a mason jar and chill.